right, so here we go. I stand corrected. Somebody writes in, this is Coors Light Clint. Curly, I've got a question for you. So I had a couple of Coors Lights with fellow believers this evening, and somehow we got around to talk about billionaires. He doesn't think anyone should be a billionaire, and that we should cap at $999 million or 1.2 billion, and the rest go to HUD. Oh boy, housing and help the poor. I'd love to hear your summation of this one. How should I reply? Also, I really want to meet you sometime for a beer, whatever. When I pass by the club a few times a year on the way to visit, I bet we could hold a record for most episodes. Listen, three of us, yeah. So I'll give him my phone number, and we'll grab a beer down there. Okay, this comes up all the time. Bernie said, "Wait, the millionaires and billionaires," right? In Elizabeth Warren, no, we got to stop it. It's immoral that somebody should be a billionaire. So, are you a fan? You would say to your friend, did you like Star Wars? And let's assume your friends probably saw Star Wars. Yeah, well, and you say, what'd you like about it? What's your favorite Star Wars episode? And then you explain to that person, well, you know what you've done? Inadvertently, you've made George Lucas a billionaire. He's a billionaire because you liked Star Wars and you went to another Star Wars episode. You went to another movie because you liked the first one and the second one. So George Lucas gets rich giving you what you want. It's the same with every single one of these billionaires, most of them anyway. And most of them are not inherited. Most of them are self-made. But if they're producing a product or a service, the reason they're a billionaire is because they created something that you wanted. Like take Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs his life ends in 2011, right? He had about $10 billion. Well, he sold about $2 billion of iPhones, all right? Just take iPhones. So that means he got $5 for every iPhone that was sold. $5. So you have to say to yourself, wow, he got $5. What did you get? Well, you now have a device that's got all your songs. You've got the entire world of all information. You can text friends, take pictures. You have everything. He got $5. What did you get? Well, you were willing to pay $700 for that phone, so obviously it was worth something to you. Is it worth more than $5? Absolutely. So he got $5. You got an entire encyclopedia or every single song you've ever liked or every single video you've wanted to send or every picture of your kids you've ever taken right there in your pocket. The bet, yes.
Well, I don't think the question is how a billionaire is made. I think
it should be a bad thing. Would you want to cap it?
I think the reason this comes up in conversation is because the theory is nobody's ever going to be able to spend $999 million. So should anything over that be redistributed for other purposes?
By whom? By the government to redistribute? What are you trying to do? Yes, somebody like, let's take Bezos. So Bezos, with all the employees that he has now, right? He only is able to enjoy about 2% of his wealth. The rest of it, everybody else enjoys. But if you all of a sudden capped it, what would happen if you capped it? If you capped it, there's less growth. The economy would shrink, and then you would have the government in determination of where they're going to redistribute this wealth. The redistributing the wealth should be done by the people that's creating the wealth. That would be a better move because most of these guys invest in other things. They look around and they, take all those guys that started just small groups of Silicon guys that got PayPal. I think there's 7 guys that got PayPal going, and each one of them bumped out of PayPal, took their millions or billions of dollars and invested in other things. Well, they invested in other things so those things could then grow. They know they're not going to just stick their money anywhere. They're going to look to see where can I put it so my cap will actually benefit somebody. Here's a great example. Arthur Banks and Bernie Marcus were working at a hardware store called Handy Dan's in 1978, and they got fired. So they decided that they were going to start a hardware store. So they got in Atlanta, they bought a big warehouse, and they hired their first 2 employees were their kids. And they had their kids stand outside, anybody that would walk by, and they'd give them $1. I'll give you $1 if you go inside. And be like, what? Here's $1. Can you just go inside? Can you go in the warehouse and look around? And they're like, yeah, okay. And people went in and looked around. There are now 400,000 people that work for Home Depot. because Arthur Bank and Bernie Marcus decided, hey, you know what we could do? We could sell tools and appliances and everything else in a big warehouse store, and we could start this thing called Home Depot, which is what they did. So they now have 400,000 employees in Canada and Mexico and the United States. Are those people that are working for Home Depot, some of them making more than $150,000 a year, some making $26,000 a year. Is their life better because Arthur Bank and Bernie Marcus decided that they wanted to start their own business? The answer is obviously yes. Same thing with Bezos, right? There's like, 1.3 million people work for Amazon because Bezos, while sitting in his garage in 94 or something like that, came up with this idea. We're all better off because every single one of these entrepreneurs, these horrible billionaires, decided to think outside the box and start something that we all benefit from. And that's as simple as that. And if you're going to have the government come in and cap it, why would you do that? That would be like saying to somebody like, take Usain Bolt and tell him, you can't run any faster than this in the 100-yard dash. He wants to see as fast as he could possibly run. All these guys are motivated by, hey, if we invest this into this, would it be more efficient? Could it make more money? Could it create more capital? And the byproduct is all of our lives are better and people have jobs. And that's as simple as it gets. I mean, but having the government go in and have people not make more money than they possibly can. Should we tell George Lucas, the last 100 people that want to come in and see Star Wars, they can't come in? Because we can't have George Lucas make more money? Obviously, he's making money because people want whatever they're producing. I don't understand this idea of, I've worked for a lot of people, but I never worked for a poor person. Poor people don't sign your paycheck.
What if they had some kind of incentive to like keep whatever over whatever $1 billion or $10 billion to keep it moving around?
They do have it moving around. Think it's under their mattress? You know what? I'm glad you asked that because, Andrew, I'm going to send you my buddy, Milton Friedman, answering that exact question on the Phil Donahue Show. Oh. The best answer. This lady in the audience, I think these rich people, they have all this money. Just like you brought up, Joe. Look, huh? Rich guy got your Snickers bar.
That's right.
All right, so you asked before the commercial break about the rich people and, would be better off, if the government took the money and redistributed the money, and they don't spend it, they just have it all. They're sitting there with it. This is Milton Friedman on with Phil Donahue. This is like in what year?
79.
Good Lord. Okay, here we go.
Why is it we have so many millionaires and everything in the United States, and we still have so many impoverished people who try to get up into the world? Why is it we have this lack of money where people who can't support themselves decently and get a decent job, where all these big men are up on top making oodles and oodles of money? They don't need it. They can only eat that much, sleep in the bed.
And what do you suppose they do? If they don't eat it and don't use it, what do you suppose they do?
They hoard it. They hoard it and invest it.
You mean they put it under their pillows?
That's right. No, they keep investing it.
Investing it in what?
That's right, yeah.
What are they invested in?
Well, in oil and everything, all these other people who are
What are they invested in? Don't get off the subject.
No.
What are they invested in?
Well, they invested in a lot of different things that the little people need.
Well, do they invest in factories?
Yes.
Does some of that money end up in machines?
Yes.
Do those factories and machines provide ordinary working people with jobs or not? What do you suppose the productivity of this country would be and of the wage rate would be if the total amount of capital in this country today was what it was 100 years ago? Where do you suppose the improvements in productivity come from except from the investment by people of their savings? But let me go to your fundamental question. First place, nirvana is not for this world. There is no paradise. Of course, we've got a lot of people who are poorly off. But if you look at it over time, if you get a sense of proportion, the well-being of the ordinary people has been the main thing that has been improved by economic progress and economic growth and development. And most residual hard cases of poverty today are the result, again, of a failure of government. Why do we have a black teenage unemployment rate in 30 to 40%? Because of two failures of government. One, a failure to provide decent schooling.
Yep.
Which is a governmental responsibility. Has been, whether it should be or not, it has been. And second, because of a minimum wage rate, which prevents those kids who haven't had decent schooling from getting jobs at low pay at which they can earn the skills on the jobs that would enable them to rise to higher pay. If you look at the sources of poverty, you will find most of them are derived from what I regard as wrong-headed government policies.
Milton Friedman. And the Phil Donahue Show. Do you remember watching? You were too young for the Phil Donahue Show.
I think we crossed over maybe
Really?
a little bit. Home sick from school.
Phil with his big white head, all that hair coming at you. I'm living. She's divorced. Got a thing. Big long questions running around the audience. We'll be right back.